The indie author revolution has been around for more than a decade, but we indies continue to push the boundaries of what we're capable of. From getting over initial prejudices to staring down perfectionism and author imposter syndrome, we've become a force to reckon with. Now, after years of hustle and grind, we indies are rebelling again. Gone are the days of publishing a book a month until we drop, and in its place we're sowing the seeds of a better way. A way with more ease, abundance, and flow. Get ready to learn about indie authorship from a whole new perspective. We're about to cover everything from releasing your poverty mentality to manifesting your millionaire author destiny. I'm Carissa Andrews, and this is the Author Revolution Podcast.
Well, hi there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Author Revolution Podcast. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I gotta tell you, I feel so much better. Here we are, the second week of July. I have finished the first draft of Midlife Wolf Mate. It's going to be going out and dropping into people's e-readers and paperbacks and all the things on the 21st of July. So kind of cut this one a little bit close. And as it turns out, the story itself, it's been a little weird because I planned the whole thing like I normally do. I had outlines and chapter by chapter synopsises, and it changed on me, kid you not, 4 different times. 4. What the hell? It's been an interesting story to say the least, and I'm in final edits now. I'm working with my editor and my ARC team, and we're getting everything kind of organized and ready to rock and roll. The files need to be up by the end of the weekend. So it's, like I said, it's cutting a little close, but it's done. I'm happy. Whew. And now all of this in mind really got me thinking about how do we create things when we're just trying to put it out into the world. We're trying to manifest something. We're trying to bring something to us and it doesn't work, right? When something fails when we're trying to do it. Well, the more I think about it, and the more I think about those times when I made freaking miracles happen, or I did something that really worked out well, there was always this little pivotal moment in my awareness that I was pulling energy to me. I knew there was going to be a magic moment. This was meant to be ours, or this was meant to be mine. Have you ever had that happen where you're creating something and there's just this knowing that it's yours? Those are the moments that I really look back and go, okay, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that thing was mine. I was going to manifest the money for it. I was going to manifest that car as ours. I was going to write the book and it was going to come out come hell or high water on time, right? So Midlife Wolf Mate, I knew that this thing was going to come into being when I said it was, for instance, right? And so the more I've been thinking about that today, and I don't know what sparked it off. I think I was probably listening to something that Amanda Frances had said because she launched a new app. And so, of course, I'm playing around with that too. So she was talking, I think it was her, about, energy and about how when we want something, we need to get our energy behind it in order to make it happen, in order for that manifestational pivotal moment to be ours, right? And I talk about this as the deciding factor. You decide, and once you've decided, it's yours, right? You've made the decision, you're moving forward. But sometimes that decision needs power. We'll make a decision thinking we want something. Our head says we want to make this thing, but our energy hasn't backed it up. So even though there's a decision there, even though you think you've made that claim, you really haven't. Because you're still kind of ambivalent about it, right? Your energy's kind of going, I want it, but I don't really care if I can get it. And sometimes that kind of goes against what we really do think. We think, oh my gosh, I really need this money, or I really need to get this book finished. And then we work in opposition of it. We start to do things that are counterintuitive to what it is that we're actually trying to create, right? Or trying to bring in or trying to manifest. And so I wanted to talk today a little bit about that, get your energy behind it in order to bring it in, because I think that's a part that even I miss sometimes. I've made many goals, and sometimes they're just superfluous. I put them out there and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to earn this amount this month, or I'm going to do this thing. And really, I haven't done the energetic work of backing up my decision. I haven't decided to really pull in my why to make sure it's powerful, to make sure I feel it inside my body. Because I'm really definitely one of those people who have to feel it. Like I will feel it. If there's a physical gut reaction when I know I've locked something in and I know that it's mine and I trust that it's coming. It's a different vibe than like just intellectually thinking it's going to happen. Intellectually thinking you're going to make this sort of thing come to be. And so they're two different entities. And it's not to say that you can't think something into being, like you can't think a decision and still follow through with it. But I think sometimes there are powerful forces at play when it comes to something that's bigger that we're trying to create, whether it's finishing that book on time or making a certain amount of money or whatever it is, whatever the big thing is for you, because everybody has their own big things that feel kind of monumental. And then you're almost worried or sad or fearful or depressed if they don't happen. So you kind of like give yourself excuses to why it might not work so that when it doesn't work, you're like, well, I didn't really try anyway, right? I didn't really put a lot of effort into it. So it's no big deal. Like if I really tried, then of course I would have made it happen. So we give ourselves an out. And interestingly enough, I restarted to read. Oh my gosh. I started rereading Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap. And it's been really fascinating to kind of go back and listen to his work. I mean, I'm not listening, I'm actually reading this time. But before I listened, my gosh, this is like a rambling podcast episode, guys. So, okay, a few years ago, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I listened to The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks when I was mowing the lawn, because you know me, I'm a physical manifester. I like to, do things like mowing the lawn or repetitive stuff and listen to things that are going to help me get into a vibe. I've always done that. And so I was listening to The Big Leap while I was mowing and really just loved the book. And now I'm kind of going back and rereading it in the paperback form because I want to reconnect to some of the elements of it. Because I think even myself, I get to a point where things get so good and then I start to think that it's going to fall apart. And so it does, because obviously we live in an inclusion-based universe. If you're going to think something, the universe is like, okay, here you go, right? And then we're like, what the hell just happened? Why am I manifesting this again? Or why do I feel like this again? Or, whatever the case might be. And so I wanted to go back and look at it because I know those conferences were a highlight of my year. They were really, really great. And so coming off of the first one, obviously we had Pharaoh and his death happened. And then I went to the next conference and that was even better. It was incredible. And then I come back and it's just like almost that depression feeling. It wasn't anything that went wrong necessarily, although I definitely manifested some weird money things, which was like not typical for what I've been doing. I say that we've had like Pharaoh and his surgeries. I digress. You get what I'm saying. It's like it was just a weird funk of a week, right? Coming back from that conference. And so when I look at my own history, there's definitely an upper limit there that I'm trying to suss out. I'm trying to push past. And so Gay Hendricks came back into my purview when I was teaching the Shattering Your Limitations class last week. And we were talking about, what does that look like for us? What does shattering a limitation look like? And so I'm reading him again, and it's just reminding me so much of how our energy has to matter. Like when we are doing something that is in our zone of genius, for instance, because he talks about that a lot. We have like 4 different zones that we operate out of. When we're in our zone of genius, the energy abounds. Like we connect to this place of joy and abundance, and things are just almost magical. And that's where we're trying to get to. But often many of us kind of stick in this place of zone of excellence. So you're good, you're comfortable, but you're not quite where you really want to be. Like your body, your soul, your being, you want to be somewhere bigger, right? You want to be the full expression of yourself. And sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to go that big, to go that deep, to get our energy behind what we really want and just trust that the universe is going to back our play. And so I've been thinking about like my own stuckness with things. It's not necessarily stuck like, oh, I feel depressed stuck, but I feel stuck in the sense of I'm doing a lot of the same things I've been doing for a very long time. So where can I mix things up? Where can I start pushing into my zone of genius and letting go of the things that no longer are working specifically for me, right? And one of the ways that I'm going to be doing that is I'm digging more into my strengths with Becca Syme. So Becca and I have a couple of calls planned out so that I'm working with her and figuring out my strengths better and trying to figure out how to incorporate them even better for both of my businesses, actually, for Author Revolution and for my writing side of the career, right? Because for me, I want to make sure that I'm operating out of this place of pure joy so that what gets better just gets better. And I want to continue that, and I want to continue being the example of it for you, and then for myself and for my kids and my family and all the people who see what I'm doing and can go, holy cow, this is possible. Because it is. And I know it is. Logically, I know it is. And so it's just about getting out of our own way and getting our energy behind it. And now this morning, before I even started this podcast episode, I actually recorded a meditation about getting your energy behind it. Like, how do you get your energy behind the thing that you want? And it was kind of funny because for me, I record these meditations with an idea. It's like I have this little nugget and I go into it without a script because that's kind of how I've learned how to be at this point, after almost 200 episodes of the podcast. And I don't even know how many recordings and videos and meditations and things I've done at this point. It's a lot. I just kind of wing it and see what comes through. And this particular meditation was so fascinating to me because I thought it was going to go one way and it went a different way. It's always interesting the way the universe starts to give you information and nuggets that you need as you're doing it. And so the meditation itself was like expanding yourself to no longer be thinking about like the one goal, the one thing that you want, and to just be open to unlimited possibilities. And as you're open to that place, what comes in? And then what comes in, just FYI, is the beginning. It's the seed of what you really want, of the thing that you're trying to reach towards. And so the visualization was really kind of cool, even for myself. And even though I wasn't the one necessarily I didn't feel like I was the one in charge of the information. It was just coming through. So let's call it channeling. I've been working with Tammy Tyree on channeling. So that's been an interesting experience, but it felt like such a flow. And so I'm going to be cleaning that up and getting it ready for everyone to be able to download for free if you'd like, because I feel like it's a powerful piece of how do we get this work in the hands of people who need it? How do we get into alignment with our desires? How do we work with this place where everything just gets to flow? My true wish is that the indie author community realize how powerful we are. Like, we already have this vivid imagination, and we create worlds and we create characters and we live more lives than probably anyone else on the planet, right? Other than just straight up readers who can read really, really fast. But it's so fascinating to me. And so how do we then give the power to those people who can expand and who can grow and who can really become even better, bigger than they already are? So keep an eye out. I'll make sure that goes into the show notes as well. There will be a link. It's just going to be a free download. You can go ahead and download it. And I'd love for you to let me know what you think of it, because it was a fascinating one to work through anyway. So I thought it was interesting. So, okay, I want you to think about your energy. Protect it. Protect the energy that you are putting out. If there are things that make you feel drained, if there are things where you're just spinning your wheels, if there's things where you're like, why am I still doing this? Or why do I have to do this? Or the things that really light you up, the things that make you so excited to dig into it, or the things that, like, when you do it, time freaking completely goes out the window. Pay attention to both of those types of energies, because when you're in your zone of genius, you are doing all the things in alignment with who you are and who you're meant to be. And when you're feeling those, why am I still doing it moments, it's because that's old energy that you are trying to leave behind and that you should leave behind, but you haven't made the decision and gotten your energy backing it up, right? So, and a lot of times it's because we're so busy, we're doing all the things that we don't even think about how much energy we're leaking through the day. We don't think about how much we're, expelling on shit that just doesn't matter, like worries and things that people are saying, or conversations that are just baloney, or, whatever it is. There's always something that is taking our energies from us. And it's up to us to rein it back in and to take note of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think that's why The Big Leap is such an interesting book and one that I do recommend. I'll put a link to that as well into the show notes. He has a book out there called The Zone of Genius, and I haven't read that particular book yet. So obviously when I'm done rereading The Big Leap, I'll be going back and listening and reading that as well. But it's so cool to me how one idea, one thing that you listen to can spark another idea, which can spark another idea, which can create something so big and monumental. Like today, the start of this podcast episode all began because I decided as I was putting dishes away, I was going to listen to Amanda Frances. I think that's how it went. I'm pretty sure. And so that thing, that moment of just listening to her while I was putting away dishes sparked everything else. Like I picked up Gay Hendricks' book again. I went through and I did a bunch of other things. I've been thinking about my master plan of how my life gets to look. I've been thinking about my energy and how I need to protect it more. I did a meditation. Do you see where I'm going? It's like snowball effects. Sometimes something just as small as this morning, I'm not going to put away the dishes in silence. I'm going to listen to something that uplifts me. Changed everything. It changed the trajectory of my day. And the same goes for you. And that meditation actually kind of shows it as well. So I want you to just play around with this notion that when you want something and when you really want it, you can get your energy behind it so that it locks in and feels like it's yours. And that can sometimes be the piece that we're missing in manifestation, getting that energy behind it. Like we're not just deciding and it doesn't mean anything to us. Find a reason, find a meaning for it. And for a lot of us, especially those of us who are big-hearted entrepreneurial types, we need to have like a larger societal why. Like I want to impact the world for the better. This course that I'm launching is going to transform people's lives. This book that I'm creating is going to take people out of their, whatever, and it's going to make their lives so much better today. It's going to, take their worries away or whatever. So this money that I'm getting, I'm going to be able to help my kids do X, Y, Z. Whatever your why is, it's like you really have to marry it up sometimes. Not all the time, because sometimes we can very easily just go, it's ours, it's mine, it's no big deal. But when things aren't coming, like when your manifestations aren't as powerful, or they're not coming as quickly, or they're not as intense or fulfilling as you want them to be, start seeing how you can get your energy to back it up. Think about the things. Spend 5 minutes just convincing yourself why it's so important and keep doing it until that energetic component locks into place. You'll feel it. I know you already have before. I know you've felt that moment when you're like, this idea is going to be amazing and I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to write this book. Or this car is meant to be mine. I don't know how. I don't know why. It's meant to be mine. Or this house is meant to be mine. My best friend Sherry did this, where it was like she just wanted to go see a house in the middle of nowhere, and not nowhere. It's like a small town next to Brainerd, but she decided to go, and next thing you know, she has this house. Like literally a week later, she had put an offer in, and a week later it was hers. It was just nuts. It went that fast. That's the power of getting your energy to back up your desire. And today I wanted to talk about it. I wanted it to be a thing that we open a discussion about and recognize that sometimes we say we want something, but do we really? And if we really do, then it is our job to get our energy aligned with it, to get our systems online and firing and find a way to get excited about it. That's how you know your energy's behind it as well. You're excited about it. Like you're like, this is going to rock. This is going to be amazing. I don't know how we're going to do this thing, but it's going to happen. Like that's the vibe, right? That's where you're heading. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's all. Now that Midlife Wolfmate is in its final edits and it's going up, I'm feeling so much more relaxed. I'm just like, whew, let's get into the vibe of like good things, good flow, good things. Yes. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I myself am going to be wrapping up the edits, like I said, to Midlife Wolfmate. I'm going to be putting out the Shopify information as I am working on it for the patrons who are supporting me on Patreon. So like, if you want to know how the Shopify experience is going, come over to Patreon. My supporters over there at the $20 level are actually getting the step-by-step behind the scenes of what's happening as I move my author site, so the Carissa Andrews website, from WordPress over to Shopify so that I can sell direct. I am giving insights, tips, tricks, things that I'm learning along the way. And if you'd like to follow along with that experience, I encourage you to check it out. So it's not just going to be about the podcast over there. It's literally going to be behind the scenes at that $20 level. And then on top of it, other than Shopify and getting all that organized now, because there's a little bit more space, I'm shifting gears back over to the rom-com pen name. So I'm really excited. I'm going to get at least one chapter done this week. I know that I have to be realistic with all the other things I'm doing with Midlife Wolfmate. So as much as I want to go whole hog and do all the things and write 6 chapters or something, I know that that's not realistic, and I'm not going to set myself up for failure either. So I'm going to just enjoy this process, enjoy getting back over to it, and love up on that book, because I am so excited to finally get back to that world and do some stuff. And yeah, so it's there's so many good things going on here now. And I want you to feel that vibe. I want you to feel just how good things can get when you are in your flow. All right? Okay. Well, have an incredible week. Get words on the page. Do your things. Trust your instincts. Get your energy behind it. And go forth and start that author revolution.